Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ohio State Primetime Live. I'm your co-host Ryan Stano.
And I'm Garrison Gaddy.
Well, Garrison, before we get started, just want to shout out to all of the members that we have here at the Ohio State, Voice of College Football. We all of us here on the channel, we create this content for you guys, and your contributions help us get that content out for you, including exclusive content. You can see the memberships. They're scrolling down at the bottom. Block O Club, JT wasn't short. We don't give a damn. Each of those tiers, gives you some special little access, including some member exclusive content that we've been churning out on the channel, and we will be having more of that here, in the next few months as the season kind of is right around the corner. Quite frankly, preseason polls come out next month, so we're going to be doing a lot more exclusive, member exclusive stuff in there as well. So if you're so inclined, please go ahead and, pick a membership, help support the channel. Like I said, 100% of it goes to the content that, we're able to create for you guys that we hope you enjoy. So appreciate everybody who is a member already. And, like I mentioned, there are, those 3 memberships. If you are so inclined to go ahead and give us a donation, that would be great. But as we start the show off, Garrison, we had some recruiting stuff we'd like to get to here in the last couple of days. And that long sigh tells you it wasn't necessarily good news. It's frustrating because Larry Johnson's at it again. And when I say he's at it again, I mean he's missing again. So today it was a miss with 4-star defensive end Landon Barnes. After it looked like he was crystal balled to go to Ohio State as most recently as a couple days ago.
Yeah.
He went ahead and flipped and picked Ole Miss. And yesterday, Ohio State went ahead and also lost another defensive end recruit, Carter Meadows, this time to Michigan, which is even worse. And the defensive end room, like that position does not look great right now. Even though Larry was able to get a couple of defensive tackles, in the last week or so, the defensive ends, they're running out of options here, Garrison. I don't know what they're going to do. What are your thoughts on losing both those kids?
Well, real quick, because I have no problem with taking victory laps. Actually, one of these, I'm going to start making a segment here called Primetime Victory Laps. So whenever we get something right that we called it out a long time ago, we can go talk about it. But I did tell you a long time ago, I said, dude, we're not getting Carter Meadows. Yeah. I said he's going to Michigan. I was very confident about things that he was going to Ann Arbor. But when you sit, but that question you just asked me, and I told you before the show that there was a tweet I had posted, and I think you're gonna like not like what's in here, but it correlates just to what you just said. Okay.
Okay.
And it's and over the last few weeks, everybody, I have been giving some leeway to LJ. Now, I still believe that it's still an operational thing. I still think that we have done things operationally that have put ourselves in a bad position. But at the end of the day,
we'll get into that.
Yeah. How much is he paid, Larry?
A lot of money.
Well, the second highest paid coach on the team.
It's over $1 million.
Yeah. So I put a lot of thought into this post. Like I sat down for like a while going through this. But oh wow, I can't even find it. But all right, we'll screw it. So here's what it is. Larry Johnson, he's missing a lot. And the problem is, it's not even just missing. We're talking about being late with recruits, like being late in recruitments, right? Oh, here it is. Boom. All right, Ryan, I'm going to read this to you, okay?
Okay.
I said, I prefer to be level-headed, but cold-blooded honesty comes with that. I feel like Colonel Jessup, and I'm about to hit the code red. So here are the bullet points. Recruiting for one defensive lineman is up in the air, and I feel less confident every day from the outside looking in. Who do you think that's about?
That was probably about Landon.
Oh, that's Deuce.
Oh.
The next one. Another D lineman is a Glenville kid that the new DC offered in April, and now we're having to flip their commitment. We know who that is.
Yep.
Said we cooled on another. Yep. Said we cooled on another, which in hindsight might have been a bad decision. Who do you think that is?
Yeah, PJ Dean went ahead and committed to Georgia today.
Yep.
That's apparently it's good enough for Georgia, not good enough for Ohio State.
Here's the next two, or it's 1 point, but here's two. We got in late with 2 top edge prospects and have to hope that we beat Daddy Warbucks for the last one.
Yeah.
That of course would be KJ. Like beating Texas A&M.
It's just about KJ Ford.
Yeah, but I just look at this dude and it's tough because I look at our class right now. We're still ranked 5th. Still have outside Texas is the only other program that has 2 5-stars like we do.
But you know what? We're 5th, but we were 2nd like a month ago. We were 2nd a month ago.
Yeah,
and now we've slid back in that ranking.
We have a higher average than everyone ahead of us. We do.
Yeah.
We do. Because it's at 92.46. The problem is,
pretty sure the average is high. Yeah.
The problem is, bro. I checked this out. Our average right now is what we finished with last season, and usually the more recruits you get, the average goes down a bit, right? So no, it's frustrating to watch, and I think that Larry Johnson, when you're paid what you're paid, and I listen, people, you can't keep saying that. Well, look what he did in 2021. Look, if I hear Chase Young one more time, I'm gonna lose my shit. That's a long time ago. If I hear a Bosa brother again, bro, in 2014, bro. I was overseas in the Navy. Like
the kids coming in were in middle school, like just entering middle school.
I'll tell you something that this is crazy and nasty. I was in an Ohio State space, the best day in sports space. Shout out to my guys Cam and all of them. And we asked this question: if you're as a Buckeye fan, if your son was a defensive lineman, would you let him go to Ohio State? How many people do you think said yes?
There's some that said yes. There's some, not as many as should, but
none of us did. I promise you, there's about 7 of us speaking in there. None of us said we would. None of us said we would. And the problem, it's not that we don't have guys that like. I think like, look, we have Kerry Wilder. He's a dog. Kerry Wilder's a dog. I do think some of the other guys we are going to talk about like Damari and Cameron. Like we can talk about. We're going to talk about them, and we should talk about them because I do think those guys have a lot of talent. But man, we keep swinging and missing on these top recruits, and it keeps happening. It's a pattern now. It's a habit.
It is a pattern. And look, we're ragging a lot on Larry because this has been a pattern for him, in the last 2 years, really. I mean, the defensive end depth, here's the deal. Aaron wants to know what the worst possible scenario is if we don't get these targets. The worst possible scenario is Ohio State doesn't add any defensive ends for this class, and all of a sudden there are injuries, and they're essentially screwed with that position. And Matt Patricia's defense can have to run more edge guys out there than what is necessary. Like CJ Hicks going to have to start playing defensive end. That's not something we want. So the issue is it's been a couple of years. Like this isn't a one-time thing. The depth now is not there. So if the injuries happen, there's no one to fill that void. So it's frustrating because he was such a good recruiter for such a long time. And now it doesn't seem like he wants to get off his ass and actually go recruit.
He doesn't.
And the guy.
I maintain he shouldn't have to. I maintain that. There should be a system.
Why shouldn't you have to?
Who are the defensive line assistants right now?
All of the main guys are recruiting. James Laurinaitis is going out there recruiting. Tim Walton and Matt Guerrieri, they're getting off their ass. They're going out there on the recruiting trail. They're getting guys.
That's different. I think those.
Ryan Harline's the offensive coordinator. He's still landing wide receivers.
He's got someone that can help him out with that, though. And I do believe that get like Matt G and James are still in the spot, especially Matt G, where you're still working, bro. Like you're still new. my thing with Larry is that we don't. Let me know if I'm wrong. Does he have any assistants?
Not right now. I don't.
And that's the
he's got analysts. No, there are analysts that that are basically his assistants, but there's no official assistant defensive line coach anymore, I don't think. Regardless, my point is that even the recruits he's been able to land over the last couple weeks, they've been Matt Patricia assisted. Like, he hasn't been able to go out and get these kids himself. That's what's so frustrating and so alarming, quite frankly, because Ohio State's going to be back. They're going to be behind 2 recruiting classes by the time he's gone. And I assume Ryan Day is going to push his ass out of the door after this year, because we can't go through this shit 3 years in a row. It just can't. And I understand that portal comment there that you just pulled up. The portal is only good for so many players. And Ohio State landed 2 portal defensive ends this last cycle. Only one of them is actually a proven guy. That's the problem, is when you get into the portal, those guys aren't proven. If they are, they're proven at the FCS level. They're not going to start at a Big Ten program unless their coach leaves. That's the only time that it really makes sense to bring the guys in. Like Bo Atkinson, like, he's never played for Bill Belichick. He had to change of coach. So, yeah, he went ahead and chose Ohio State. That's a guy who's proven. And then you get a guy like Logan George, who's coming in from Utah State. I know you love Logan, but he's unproven. He's unproven at this level. And it's concerning that Larry can't stock up with these guys. And there are some systematic issues that aren't helping him. And, we can get into that if you want, or, if you've got other points with Larry, you can add to those too.
I was not so much Larry, but I do want to say this. I'm not worried about our edge. I'm not. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I think there's some really talented guys behind there. Also, leading into 2026, I think we should be fine. Of course, it's 2025 right now. I do think that Caden Curry, being possibly the third guy behind Kenyatta Jackson Jr. and Bo Atkinson, who, by the way, both of them could come back the next season. I look at that, and I look at that with the possibility with CJ Higgs. That's going to be a learning curve for him, of course. Menza, we'll see with some other guys. I know Will Smith Jr. is out on the edge now. I don't think he's going to be but he's going to be one of those guys that's rotating, I believe. My problem is the defense is in the middle, defensive line, defensive tackle specifically, is that the first 2 guys on that depth chart are going to be great. Not great, but I mean, they're going to be fine. That being Caden McDonald and Edric Houston. Now, could I be wrong about the guys behind him, like Malone and Moore? And dude, I will say this. I don't expect them to want to take a guy's head off in the spring game as a defensive tackle, but you didn't really play last year. You didn't really show yourself in the spring game. So maybe, bro, listen, if in the season, if those 2 show up, great. I will sing their praises. But as of right now, that interior D-line spot means it's a lot right now, because after that, I don't know what the depth looks like.
There is no depth. There's quite simply just no depth. And we can go ahead and start going into some of these issues as far as why Ohio State has had problems landing some recruits here recently. And a lot of it is, quite frankly, because Ohio State is doing really stupid things with their NIL.
I disagree.
So today,
I disagree.
You disagree?
You
disagree.
Look,
okay, hold on. Let me set things up, and then I want to hear what your thoughts are. So, for those who don't know, the House settlement is going to be officially starting with all of their new stuff tomorrow. July 1st is when all of that goes into effect. So that's when Ohio State and every other college in America has to start paying their athletes directly through their they just have to pay the kids directly. All of the NIL funds go to their own clearinghouse that they've set up. So that means that up until this point, Ohio State and every other college is able to still use NIL collectives from outside the university to help fund recruits, current roster, any NIL contributions. And that's what all the other schools in the country have done.
Mm-hmm.
They've all front-loaded NIL deals to make sure that they can land some of these top-edge recruits. And you know who hasn't? Ohio State. And so that's why you all of a sudden lose a late bidding war for a Luke Waffle. You lose a late bidding war here for Landon Barnes. You know, players like this, for Tyler Atkinson, guys like this who are solid recruits, they aren't getting because Ohio State decided to start playing by the rules too early. And it's not like it's not like front loading those deals are against the rules either, because those rules aren't in effect until tomorrow. So Ohio State basically wasn't using their money in a smart way, in my opinion. You seem to disagree.
I think Ohio State, and by the way, who came up with the name of the show today? I did. Trust the process. Now, and just so you guys know, I know that has a bad connotation with it because it maybe makes you think of the Philadelphia 76ers, but we are not that. Not that
Philly hasn't gotten past the second round of the NBA playoffs, so let's chill with that.
Well, I'm a Pistons fan. I'm not going to talk about it. I can't really talk about it. But since NIL has been a thing in college football, Ohio State has gone about it the right way. They've done it, and they've done it better than I would say 99.5% of the rest of college football. Ohio State, I believe, is the best run program in college football from top to bottom. Now, yes, you're correct. People are front loading. Ross Bjork talked about it. And I think that there's a chance that this could be in Ohio State's favor. For a long time, Ohio State has gotten recruits very, very early in the cycle. And we have seen it. We have seen a lot of these top-end recruits pan out, like dip off at the end. I think right now what Ohio State, and I'm speculating right now, of course. I think right now what Ohio State is doing is that they see what's coming down the pipeline. They had consolidated, like everyone kept saying, oh, they want the foundation to come back. Hey, guys, listen to me right now, okay? Front and center. The foundation can't come back because they can't. That's being abolished in college football because they're seen as donors, and donors can't be involved with recruiting. So when we know things like that and you consolidate everything, that's smart on Ohio State's behalf. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I think Ohio State was the first to do that before everyone else was. So then when I look at that and I see what other teams are doing, like a Miami, like a Texas A&M, like a it looks like I can USC, bro. I think Ohio State,
almost every other program.
Yeah, almost every other program. I think Ohio, and we're still the 5th ranked class right now. I think Ohio State is waiting for these rules to get set, and as soon as they do, instead of being everyone thinks Ohio State is being reactive right now. I promise you, I think they're being proactive right now. I think they're being proactive.
I could not disagree more.
Well, I understand that, but can you understand the line of thinking to where Ohio State sees what's coming down the pipeline?
I understand how you're coping with this. I can hear the
It's not. I believe if anyone comes up with good points that are rational, I don't think it's coping. And I'm not gonna. I haven't seen Ohio State throw a bag at anyone except for one player. I can care less. And mind you, don't forget this, Ryan. We got guys like Brandon Ennis who came out and said people offered him more money and he still said no.
Yeah. Well, look, here's the big problem that I have. Mm-hmm. So Ohio State, one of the big reasons why Ohio State President Ted Carter, who is a new president, I say new, he's only been here about a year now. One of the reasons why he hired Ross Bjork, who is a new athletic director, is because he was supposed to be a pioneer in the NIL space. Based on what they did with Texas A&M, they spent a ton of money in NIL, and that was supposed to be because Bjork understood the NIL regulations and the collectives and understood how to fundraise money and how to use that money effectively. Mm. If Bjork is such an NIL savant, then why the hell isn't he exploiting these rules when it comes to front-loading these deals here before today? But he knows that they change tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Oh, we
So
have a
you know
new
what
piece
you
on this
do?
show
You
about it.
you
We have
allow
a new
you
piece.
push these funds here for June 30th, but all really the whole month of June. Get these players some money so you have a good enough recruiting class. And then you know what? When the rules change, then you start doing your pansy shit that you've been doing. Then you move on to that. So that's where my thought process is
Yeah.
you know what? Good for you. You started following the rules, the future rules, earlier than everyone else. And now look where it's gotten you. You've lost a 5-star recruit, 2 4-star recruits, and another 4-star recruit who you had in your bag up until 5 hours before he committed. So that's the problem.
Again, I don't think anything you're saying is off base. I do think there's credibility in what you were saying. I just have a different line of thinking that Ohio State has been on the other end of these situations where other teams don't front load, and maybe Ohio State has been. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But I have seen plenty of times where Ohio State loses a recruit at the tail end of on signing day. So even nothing you're seeing right now is different from what you've seen for the last 2 years. Nothing is different. I think. I think. Well, no, but I understand that. I understand that. But Ross Bjork, like I saw a dumbass say fire Ross Bjork today. Like, you know what?
I
it's
probably
time.
know who it was because
No,
they're
it's
probably
time.
in my
Well, I'm
Twitter
gonna go ahead and bring this up. So shout out, one of my favorite follows on X. She follows me also. Mama Sanchez, Miss Sanchez. She says here, so buy them. These kids need to earn it. Know your worth for sure, but these kids are not established. As for the amount after you've proven yourself at the next level, I'm just saying, is her son not one of the best prospects Ohio State has ever gotten? Yes or no?
Well, I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so.
No, but I'm saying, is he not one of the best?
Like I said, I don't know about ever gotten, but like in the last 5-6 years at the corner position, absolutely.
Okay. Dude, he still chose Ohio State. Like I feel like and this has been I had a huge argument with my friend Bryce about this like last year. Ohio State does not need to go out of their way to pay out the ass for these high school players. We don't have to do that. We have a proven concept. That proven concept is having the most players in the NFL. No matter what era you're talking about, no matter where you're talking about. You come to Ohio State. It is a paid internship now. Mind you, let's point some things out, everybody. There are certain rules. Like if a kid is paid over $600, it has to be disclosed in 30 days. Do you believe there's a lot of players right now that are out here getting NIL deals? It's not being disclosed right now, but when it has to be, I feel like there's certain things that a lot of people aren't looking at, and I think Ohio State is. And I refuse to believe that we have someone like Ross Bjork and have someone like Ryan Day. Ryan Day is from the Northeast Coast. He's a genius. That guy's smart. We got a rocket scientist for a defensive coordinator. This is a very smart and well-run engine at Ohio State. We are still. Are you not an Ohio State Buckeye, Ryan?
Of course I am. Got a degree on the wall.
Then what are you crying about?
Here's my problem. Everything you said, and I agree with Miss Sanchez on her tweet. I agree with that.
So they're not
my issue. Shut up. My issue is Ohio State. Like all those rules that you just mentioned, those start coming into effect tomorrow. So why not take advantage of the rules the way they are up until that point? That's what I'm saying. Go ahead. Give these kids a front-loaded deal where all of a sudden you get this cash up until, hell, give them a $600K payday right here on June 30th. Then they commit. Now, I understand why Ohio State would be not looking to do something like that, especially when it comes to nothing. Everyone can flip until signing day. Until that pen is on paper, they can flip. The problem is if you are able to get an NIL deal on the books before these rules come into effect tomorrow and they sign something, then they're locked in. Unless if they leave Ohio State, they're not seeing that money. So if Ross Bjork was as smart as he thinks he is with the NIL situation, he would be able to navigate this landscape in a better way. That's all I'm saying. Right now, they're acting like a broke-ass program, which they were, $38 million in debt as far as the athletic department was last year. So maybe they are. I don't know. My point is, why not keep using outside NIL funding from fans while it's still, while they still can? You know what I mean? That's my issue. Now, with all of that being said, that does not leave Larry Johnson off the hook for the failures he's had the last couple of days.
What percent do you give? What percent do you give Larry, and what percent do you give like our GM, the whole operation? What the percentage is like for you?
For Larry specifically, 70%, 30% for the other. But with some of the other recruits Tyler Atkinson, 5-star kid.
Yeah.
Seemed like we were able to get someone there.
So KW says we're crying because we got Kerry Wilder instead of Luke Waffle. House 247 Sports has brainwashed so many people with their recruiting rankings. So real quick, KW. Earlier in the show, I said Kerry Wilder is a dog, which I believe he is. Heck, did you see him at the
nice reps against Felix Ojo? We talked about that last week.
Did we talk about that?
Oh, we talked about that.
Yeah, we talked. Yeah, my God. And then also, Luke Waffle. I don't think he's that good. I don't think. No.
I think he's okay.
He's okay. He's not a bidding war player. He's not someone I'm going to. I'm not trying to outbid USC for him. He has no. He looks like. This is gonna sound so disgusting to say this. He looks like Jack Sawyer to me.
People say he's just an upgraded Jack Sawyer, which Jack was pretty damn good last year. I'll say that.
Yeah. He was pretty damn good last year. He wasn't as good as JTT last year. Nowhere near JTT's tape.
We've had this discussion.
The guy that finished on top of the Big Ten sack leaderboard. Yeah, Jack Sawyer's him. I think not.
Regardless. Think not. What you mentioned, you don't think Waffle's a guy that you get into a bidding war over? You would normally be right. You would normally be right if they had any other defensive end recruits to begin with. Like, the problem is now the board's empty. The board's essentially empty. I don't really know where they go from here. The portal is probably what they're going to try next fall. I've heard that they're going to try to flip some guys. Like, there's a kid from Washington, who's committed to Washington, who they might be looking to flip.
I think we can. I think
I'm not going to hold my breath on that.
I know, and trust me, I'm right with you. Like, I don't like having to flip.
When was the last time you remember Ohio State actually flipping a recruit, like who was solidly committed to another program and then flipped?
Off the top of my head,
there's one name that comes to mind for me. That was Jordan Hancock. He flipped from Clemson. That's the only guy that I can actually remember. And that's right. That was so long ago. Hancock is gone. He's in the NFL now.
And I agree with you. Like, I can't stand when people talk about, we're going to, it's flip season. I'm not a fan of that. But right now, like I said, I'm Colonel Jessup. I'm about to call the code red. I'm almost there. At this moment in time, I do believe Ohio State has to try and flip up recruits.
This is another problem. Aaron brings up a good point. A lot of these kids are getting late offers. And that to me is why, and I'm talking specific on the defensive line. That's another reason why I place a large amount of the blame on Larry. Like, you got to identify this talent sooner. You got to be able to get these kids offers. Like, if you give them an offer, yeah. But I mean, if you give them an offer June 15th, they're not going to commit to you. They've been recruited for 6, 8, 12 months by some of these other programs. Like, come on. They've got to do a better job than that.
And by the way, when it comes to the blame percentage, I give Larry 65%. Because at the end of the day,
so you're about with me.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're paid the big bucks for a reason, aren't you? Like, I get it, bro. Like, everyone's like, you expect a set. Like, shout out to my guy, Book, bro. Like, I do understand not expecting a 73-year-old man to go do that. And listen, Larry has proof of concept, but that's my problem with the operation of Ohio State right now, where I believe we should have someone, at least one other person that goes out and makes these visits, makes these phone calls, that gets these kids here, like a Lyle Clark. And then you get them to Ohio State where Larry Johnson can show you the proof of concept. It's there. It's there. He just turned a 3-star Ty Leak into a first-round pick.
Yep.
So
I think we've said all we can here about Larry. So let's go ahead and move on.
Well, message here from the Voice of College Football. Get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the Voice of College Football. Let's discuss how you also can reach your target market. Check out the experience of one of our current partners, that being Win Agency, posted here on the screen, and we are here to deliver for you. Contact us at sponsorships at bocfb.com. Again, that is sponsorships at bocfb.com today.
By the way, something just came across my phone. Your Pistons just spent $29 million on Karis LeVert for 2 years. So have fun with
I used to call him Baby Durant
on that bench guy.
Hey, listen, bro. We have the best young player in the East. I don't care.
Yes, I mean, maybe next year, because Halliburton's gonna be on the sideline for all year, which sucks.
Oh my God, dude, that was terrible to watch.
I don't want to talk about it.
By the way, I do want to show you this before we move on to something we can just quickly look at. There's a fan base that's continuously said that our coach is born on third base. And, I just happened to come across something that popped back on my timeline and wanted to know who's there at third. And they kept asking me, oh, well, what's what's it going by? And they said on there, the guy posted on there, I'll find the Twitter, I can post it in here later. He said, current talent on the team, and what was the second point? A winning culture. Well, and for all intents and purposes, Sherrone Moore did take over a winning culture and turn into an 8-5 team. But that's besides the point. Just thought I'd leave that out there for you Wolverine fans to see there. And one fan said, well, bro, like the space between him and Steve Sarkisian is less than like the difference between him and Ryan Day. I said, bro, in a track meet, if I finish third, but the time difference is closer to the guy at 8, I still finish third. What are you talking about? Yeah, I had no. Go ahead.
Also, like, if you look at this list, all of these are like the top programs in the country. So yeah, they're gonna have a lot of talent. Like Ohio State always has talent. That's because they're Ohio State. Like Michigan, you should have a lot of talent. That should be why you're Michigan. Alabama, that's why Kalen DeBoer, that's why last season was so disappointing, because he took a team that, went to the playoff the year before and went 9-4. Sherrone Moore did the same thing going 8-5. So it's a ridiculous argument. And by the way, the same head coach that everyone in that other program worships just got listed in a lawsuit by students from his old university with the whole Matt Weiss situation. So, have fun with all of that, stuff. And none of this higher than mighty bull crap that keeps getting spewed from that family.
And I'll tell you what, to all the victims, that's horrible. Like some guy doing. We talked about this a long time ago. So we don't have to rehash about the victims, but I do think that the same way I can look back on Urban Meyer. Listen, Ohio State fans know who Urban Meyer is. Okay, I don't have to get it, but and I was okay with that. I never Ohio State fans, man. Look, we fire our greatest coaches. That's what we do, and we're fine with that. We lived through that. But I do think that Jim Harbaugh did get a and again, it's not known that he knows yet, right? They say, but again. Do I believe he did? Yes, I do believe that. The
lawsuit alleges that he knew before the Fiesta Bowl and still allowed Weiss to coach.
Yeah, the suits came.
That's
and listen, man. I've always thought this about. I didn't need this to validate anything I thought about Jim Harbaugh already.
Correct. Correct.
But
I know we wanted to talk about, it just kind of piggies back off the NIL conversation that we just had.
This is the time of the
There's a
year,
report
bro.
out there. Yeah, there's a report out there flying around that alleges Ohio State will be spending $35 million on their team this year. And that report came, I believe, from the Wall Street Journal. And I think one of the sources that was used was Brian Schottenstein, who, is a person that is alive that has a lot of money. That's all I'll say about him. But apparently, that is the figure that's being thrown around, which would be a significant increase from last year's alleged figure of $20 million. So what are your thoughts on that being the figure that's floating around? And do you believe that that is the true figure?
So I oddly, because I saw it on 11 Warriors, but I do oddly have I have a 3 years now subscription to the Wall Street Journal. So I did get to read Rachel Beckman's article, and in there she said right now, for the bigger programs, the average is between 30 and 35 million right now. That's the average. So am I surprised by it? No. The I always knew that the market was going to go up in terms of the number. Also, right now the economy is booming. Right now, if you didn't know, everybody, we hit record numbers right in the S&P 500. If you didn't know, but no, when I see that, I understand it. She also says, in here, she said there's three main reasons: new NIL rules, last minute donor money, and then also revenue sharing. Those are the three components that have skyrocketed the number from what we had, 20 million to now $35 million. And I would have to assume if the average is somewhere between 30 and 35, Ohio State is going to be at that 35 point, right?
You would think.
Yeah, and in there, she stated something that you talked about earlier. Ross Bjork said, "We know a lot of people are front loaded." He says we are not unique. He says we are not unique to that. So, and also we're keeping all 36 sports for everyone that cares. So we keep our rifle.
If he can somehow pull that off, that would be fantastic. Because I know there's a lot of other programs that are cutting some sports, and I got to be honest, I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work unless the athletic department is just going to operate at a deficit for all of time, because they were already operating at a pretty large deficit last year. So I don't know. Maybe that's why they needed to build those goofy ass looking luxury boxes in the south stand that are taking away student seats. I don't know. But so this $35 million figure, I don't know if I believe that it's the correct figure. I don't know how anyone. First of all, there's never going to be an exact figure that anyone can come up with. Those figures they're ambiguous. And they're purposely ambiguous because no one can identify a firm NIL number for really any player. Those NIL numbers, just throw it out there because everyone's NIL agent wants to throw out a number to make themselves look good. And you see them from different sources. None of the numbers add up the same. So whether it's 35 or not, I don't know. I do know that they're spending a lot of money. And this goes back to the recruiting conversation earlier. They're spending a lot of money on their current roster. That money is not earmarked for incoming recruits. That is just roster money, kids currently on the roster. So, a lot of that money, that's going to Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, Julian Sand, Max Clare, who came in from the portal. Those are guys who you're going to be counting on here next year. And all of those guys are proven commodities. So I understand why they would spend a lot of money on their current roster. And, quite frankly, they should. And, like you, I do expect this number, quite frankly, to go up every year because the NIL cap goes up every year. So, what I don't want to hear is people, that, Ohio State bought the best roster money can buy. Like you said, this is the average. There are programs that are spending more money, and I'm looking at you, USC, Texas A&M, Hell, even Texas Tech's throwing money around like they've got, a ton of that to play with this offseason. So, this is the state of college sports now. It is what it is.
I wish we had Alan Clark back, bro. That's just.
I do too. But
hey, Matthew, no one cares, all right? No one cares that you guys have him, all right?
I mean, he's about to catch an L. He's about to catch an L on August 30th. I do know that in a couple months.
Oh, he's catching that L. And there's only two things in Texas, and they damn sure ain't steers. That's
right.
I love that movie.
So, I mean, you got anything else to say about the $35 million figure?
Listen, man, the market's going up. That's all it is. That's just all it is.
That's right. I know you wanted to talk more about the PFF top 10, so let's go ahead and let's bring that up. Let's go ahead and all right, how about you lead this segment?
Yeah. So, everyone, I had a whole show written out, sent it to Ryan. He was fine with it, and then I came across some of the biggest BS I've ever seen, and a lot of people thought I had been disrespecting this player because I talked about a younger wide receiver on our team a lot. I'm like, no. Like, I still believe this guy is elite. I think he's an elite player. He just had to have the chance. He's been behind some of the best Ohio State receivers of all time. A few Ohio State players. There's only three so PFF gave their top 10 players returning for each position. 3 Buckeyes showed up on there. Sonny Styles was the number 6 linebacker. Shout out to my boy Juju. He keeps telling me about the Michigan linebackers. They weren't on there. Jeremiah Smith, of course, was the number 1 receiver. Caleb Downs was the number 1 safety.
Yep.
The only thing I got out of this was that you cannot tell me there are 9 other receivers in college football that are better than Carnell Tate.
That's the only quarrel I have with that list.
So I've been thinking that everyone keeps telling me, Carnell Tate's getting disrespected, even though NFL scouts have came out and said, watch out for him. He's going to be the first wide receiver taken in the draft. People forget he's 6'3", 195 pounds. Runs. I think he reminds me of like Chris Olave, where he's not blazing speed, but he's getting past you, and he's always open. Carnell Tate's always open. But to tell me that there are 9 other receivers better than him, I think that is BS.
I think he's a very good player. I think by the end of the year, people will realize how good he is because now he will be the number 2 guy. Like he'll have more opportunities to show what he can do. It's interesting because there are a lot of good other, returning players from all these different positions. And, I think a lot of it is that everyone's just expecting that Ohio State, they lost so much talent, but everyone knows they have the 2 best, they got the best offensive and defensive player returning. But then after that, everyone else seems to be like, okay, what else is there? But that's, I think, people just kind of looking at Ohio State from a 10,000-foot view. And, I got some information earlier this evening that it'll come out to the public here at noon. But there are some preseason All-American lists. And it's interesting because there are going to be some Ohio State fans that are angry as far as other Big Ten schools having more preseason All-Americans than Ohio State on this list. I'll just say that. But when you look at the roster, I can't really I can't really argue it, I guess. I mean, the PFF in general, they're very hit and miss when it comes to the content. Like sometimes what they say makes sense, how they use the analytics makes sense, and other times it's just a load of crap. So, I file this under, I guess, a mix of both.
By the way, I've always said I take PFF with a grain of salt. I will always take it with a grain of salt. I do, it's unlike baseball and basketball where those are more analytic driven and understandably so. Football, I believe in analytics. At the end of the day, do you want to hit me as hard as I want to hit you? I do believe in that. But play this sport for a very long time, and I will always believe that if you have more heart, if you gotta have the talent, strength, and speed. But if I have more heart than you, I'm more than likely going to win if I have more heart than you. So, but yeah, I feel bad for Cardinal because I don't feel bad for him, but I do think it's quite disrespectful the way he is treated in the national in the landscape of college football compared to everybody else. I mean, I remember people. Emeka Ibuka honestly got the same treatment. People were going out literally saying that Luther Burden was better than him, which I thought was insane. I think this season, man, when Cardinal Tate goes out there, and Matthew Miller, he saw it. They thought that double teaming JJ all damn game was going to win them. No, Cardinal went right out there and torched you. Open every single time. Tony toe tapping on the sidelines. It was quite easy for him.
Well, so, that's something they're going to have to deal with week 1 too. Like they're going to have to change that game plan.
Oh yeah. Max Clare, Bob. Oh. It's going to be. Yeah. We'll get back to that. We'll get back to that back to that eventually. But no man. I love Cardinal, and I really look forward to seeing what he's going to be this year because I do believe he's a very underrated Buckeye, and I think that he deserves credit in being able to take that backseat for as long as he did. Well, he didn't have to do that. He could have left to many other big time programs and been wide receiver 1.
I agree. We'll see. I think we're both expecting him to, put up some good numbers this year. But as you mentioned, there's a guy who's probably going to be taking more opportunities away from him too up the middle. We'll see if the Buckeyes actually use the tight end this year.
Yeah.
So we'll see about that. The last thing we got here on the docket here to talk about today is Big Ten Media Day, which is just 3 weeks away. It's right around the corner. They're doing it in Las Vegas this year, which do you like that? Do you like that they're going out to Vegas? Because I'm not a fan.
I love Vegas.
You're gonna go? Did you email Mark to try to go?
No. I did. So I'll hear. I'm sure I'll hear back from him soon. Listen, man, I love Vegas. It's one of those cities where I've never spent longer than 3 days and 2 nights there. I can't do it. It's tiring.
That's all you can spend. Yeah.
I don't sleep. I remember the first time I went there was for my 21st birthday with my dad, right before I joined the Navy. And I don't remember my sleeping patterns, but I do remember just getting back from the bar or club around 2, 3 a.m. And for some odd reason, maybe because of the time difference, but some odd reason I wake up at 6 a.m. and all those 70-year-old people are still down there hitting ching, 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 just hitting the slots. But no, but I do believe that Big Ten Media Days belong in one city and one city only, and that's Indianapolis. If they were going to pick another city, I would say put it in Chicago. But since those are the two. Yeah, I would call Chicago the Mecca of the Midwest. But I think that they're doing it because we have the West Coast now. Which, to be honest with you, I can care less. It ain't like we took it to Philadelphia or New York, and we could have.
Yeah.
But
no, that's what they're doing. I will not be in Vegas. The first day of Big Ten Media Day is that is my wife's birthday, and it's
married men don't need to be there.
Oh, he would kill me if I went to Vegas over her birthday. So, will not be going. But Ohio State will be out there. All the Big Ten programs will be out there, and we found out who Ohio State's going to send out there. And I wanted to know if you were a little bit surprised by who they sent out. The first name, Sonny Styles, I'm not surprised by. Senior leader, one of the best returning players they've got. That makes a lot of sense. He quite frankly deserves it. Changed positions to acquiesce to Ohio State getting Caleb Downs last year, so he deserves it. And then Caleb Downs, upperclassman. He's a junior, but as you know, both you and I expect, this is his final year in college. He will be going pro, so reward him, send him out there. He's your best defensive player, one of the best defensive players in college football. Totally get it. I was actually a little bit surprised that they're sending Jeremiah out there, just because he's a true sophomore. Like he's a young guy. I understand he's your best player and probably the best player in college football, but it's not like he's one of those guys that has.
Did you just say probably?
Yeah, I think he is. I think he is.
I'm just checking the temperature, but probably.
Others have varying opinions. But he's really young. I mean, he's a true sophomore, so it's not like he's one of those guys that has, quote unquote, earned his stripes through longevity. Grinded through a whole lot of battles. So I was a little bit surprised, but the more I thought about it, I'm looking at the roster and it's like, well, who else really has on the offensive side of the ball? I mean, I guess you could send Carnell out there. He's a year older. But that's really it. It's not like they got a whole lot of upperclassmen on the offensive line. New quarterback, new running back, new tight end. Like, they're all new. So, the more I thought about it, I guess the more it makes sense. What did you make of, those three choices?
Well, we found this out last year, guys. Ohio State is the chosen team of God. So you gotta send a guy like Sonny Styles over there, senior leader, big Christian kid. You gotta send him over there. He's the good face of the program. And then you send Downs because, let's just be honest here, he's the best player on your defense. And like you said, this is last season. It is.
Yeah.
And also I would say, I think, even though there's been guys that have been there longer than him, I don't believe anyone is smarter on this team than he is. And I don't think anyone has a greater grasp of that defense, of a new defense with Matt Patricia than he does. I'll just go ahead and say that. And then you gotta listen, bro. You can't send the Jackson 5 without Michael Jackson. You gotta send the biggest star in college. You gotta send the star, bro. You got to. What you're gonna have a NSYNC reunion without Justin Timberlake? No, you can't do that. So Jeremiah being there, and also, is Jeremiah probably? Let's be honest here. Is he the most fun interview? I don't know. He's a very quiet person. He's very quiet.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why you can send him. You're not sending. Some other programs, they have like undersized wide receivers that don't have any production in their college career, and they talk a lot of shit about first round picks like Marvin Harrison. That's the type of kid you don't want to send. And we're talking about Sharon, not Sharon, but what's that Smurf's name?
What's that Smurf's name?
Samaj Morgan.
I don't know who you're.
That's his name. Samaj Morgan. Yeah. That's Smurf. So so I think I think that Jeremiah Smith is a calm, cool, and collected young man. He never says the wrong thing. He won't say the wrong thing, and he's someone that you can trust in a room full of eyes. So,
well, not just that, but what is he, 19? Like, he's not gonna get super wild out there in Vegas. Like, he's kind of a quiet dude. Like, all three of those guys aren't necessarily the wildest guys that they've got on the roster. You couldn't
send a 19-year-old me there. I'll tell you that much.
Oh yeah, no, certainly not me either. But the personalities fit for the city that they're going to, as far as keeping things under control. Let's just say that. What do you think about the fact that media day is now 3 days long? Like, it's the 22nd to the 24th. I understand there's 18 teams in the conference now, but come on, that's too long.
You know what the worst part about it is? Oregon, I have to imagine Ohio State and the team of North are going to be on the same day.
Probably.
and if you're gonna stretch it to 3 days, you can't have Oregon and USC in there.
Now what they'll do is they'll have the Ohio State players go one day and they'll have the Ohio State coaches go the next day. One of the 2 days, and then they get out.
I don't need 3 days of that. I don't need 3 days of that. But I mean, hey, I mean, I guess that upcoming Monday we're gonna have a lot to talk about. So
that's true. Although none of these guys say anything a whole lot interesting because everyone's kind of keeping things close to the vest ahead of the season. Yeah. I don't really see any groundbreaking things happening here unless, there's going to be a lot of NIL talk. I can guarantee you that with the House settlement officially, going into effect by that time. Yeah. So that'll probably be a lot of what these coaches speak about. But I mean, I guess good for those players who were selected to go out there. I know it's an honor for those guys to be picked. I also fully expect Sonny to be wearing the Black O jersey this year. I expect he's going to be the pretty much no-brainer pick for that. I would be shocked if it was someone else. I mean, would you? Do you think he's got that honor pretty much summed up?
I don't think anyone else should be wearing that jersey except for him.
Yeah.
No one else deserves to wear that jersey outside of him. He's a senior. He's been
sacrificed. He switched positions last year.
That was my next word to use. He's sacrificed. He didn't Yeah. I thought he was our Taylor Mays, but he's worked out very well at that linebacker spot. Possible day one pick in this upcoming draft, depending on how he plays this season. And again, he's been a consummate Buckeye, and that's really what I love about him. So,
agreed. Anything else you want to hit before we scoot on out of here?
Shoot, well, we got a couple minutes here. Well, give me your top, all-time top your wide receiver unit. You get 4 wide receivers for Buckeyes. You get from the 80s to now.
So just okay. Top 4 Ohio State wide receivers ever. I'm not going to give you any specific conversation.
No, it's not an easy conversation.
This is just my Mount Rushmore of Ohio State wide receivers.
Okay.
And I'm just going to go ahead and say this right now. Jeremiah is not on it because I don't know what his full career is going to be yet. Based on what he's already done, I mean, he's very damn well close to being at that top 4. But once his career is over, if it pans out the way everyone else thinks it is, he'll be on that list and he might be number 1. But with that being said, I have just one from the olden days. You got to give me Terry Glenn. Terry Glenn.
I thought you were going to say that. Yeah.
He was nasty. He just was. He made catches not a lot of people could make. Make people miss once he got the ball in his hands. And it's not like Ohio State was a perennial passing team at that time. And, he still put up some good numbers. He was a first-round pick. Really good player. Second, I would have to put I'm also putting Chris Olave on there because his receiving abilities, he could do it all. He could catch deep balls. He could go over the middle. He could catch the intermediate routes. And also, he did some stuff on special teams. That freshman year, he had a block punt against Michigan in addition to 2 receiving touchdowns. He just came up big at the biggest moments. That's why he's on that list. I would also have Marvin Harrison Jr. on there. He was one of the best wide receivers I've ever seen at Ohio State. He was the entire offense in 2023 when McCord was throwing it to him. Just carried the team. Just ridiculous talent. And then for my 4th, it's a toss-up between.
We ain't doing toss-ups. No, sir.
All right. If you're holding my feet to the fire, then give me Michael Jenkins.
Did you say Chris? You didn't say CeCe.
I did not say Chris Carter. It was between him and Michael Jenkins.
Okay.
No, Michael Jenkins was the offensive threat besides Maurice Clarett on that 2002 Ohio State football team. He just was.
Not Craig.
There's another first-round pick. He was the all-time receiver for 20 years up until KJ Hill went ahead and took that. I just think he was that good. I mean, Garrett Wilson was another close guy. It's like you said, it's not an easy list. Ohio State's got a lot of great wide receivers. So who's yours?
Okay, well, let me say this because I'll do what you're doing on Mount Rushmore. If I had to pick for my team, like simply for my team, I'm taking Jeremiah, Teddy Ginn, Garrett Wilson, and Chris Carter because I know he's not going to drop the ball. But if you're asking my Mount, no, I didn't.
That was 5.
What?
You said
JJ, Ted Ginn, CC, Garrett Wilson.
And then you said, okay, I thought you.
Oh no,
I thought you'd mentioned someone else. Okay, so that's a 4.
That Indiana education, huh?
I got a Ohio State degree.
Okay, that's fair enough. My dad has the same degree, so I'll give it to you. I can't talk shit about it. So my Mount Rushmore, the first face, George Washington, that's going to be CC. That's going to be the first face you see. Greatest hands of all time. Hall of Famer, but at Ohio State, he was that guy, so he's going to be on there. Part
of the reason why I didn't have him on there, I told you it's toss up between him and Jenkins, is that we didn't get to see a full career from him at Ohio State. Like, he was not – like, he had some off-the-field issues. Let's just leave it at that. And we didn't really get to see what he was all able to do.
Yeah.
Had he been able to stay, different story.
So, yeah, CC. And there's like, no, I'm just Marvin Harrison Jr. Because I just think that I think Marv was just
he's unbelievable.
Unbelievable, and he has the Biletnikoff. He had that Biletnikoff, and I saw a whole season where he was the offensive scheme.
Yep.
Shoot, man. Terry Glenn is on my Mount Rushmore. And then, it's between these two for me. But I'm going to pick – this is just personal favorite. I'm picking Ted Ginn Jr. over Michael Jenkins. And the reason is because I was at that game, Ted Ginn Jr.'s freshman year against Michigan State. I saw that in person. And I have never in my life seen anything like that. A kid come out there. He's the best returnman in Big Ten history. Top 3 all time in my eyes, behind Hester. Deep threat. Like if Ted Ginn Jr. was in today's Ohio State's offense.
My issue with Ted is he was more of a threat when it came to returning punts and kicks than he was actually as a wide receiver. Like he was a pretty good wide receiver, but he wasn't a threat to get 1,000 yards every year. Like the most receiving yards he had was his sophomore year in 2005 when he had 803 yards. And he didn't score a whole lot of touchdowns.
That's Tressel's fault. Wait, question. Do we get to put Brian Hartline on there?
I mean, you can, but this is a strictly football on the field what you did, not as far as a coaching.
Man, Brian Hartline. Man, I'll tell you what. There was an era for Ohio State when we kept some of the dopest white receivers. I'll tell you what. Dane Sanzenbacher.
You talking about him, Dane Sanzenbacher?
Or you say Sanz? I would say Sanzen.
Sanzenbacher, yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, we just went through Mount Rushmore. Think of all the guys we left off the list. Neither one of us had Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Emeka Egbuka, who just got drafted in the first round, Joey Galloway. I mean, these are all.
Is the all-time leading receiver now in yards now? He is, isn't he? I think he's the all-time.
I think he is over KJ now. Yeah. So again, it's just it shows you.
Guys like Anthony Gonzalez. He's not. He wouldn't be on here, but I mean, Anthony was.
Anthony Gonzalez, first round pick.
He's a good politician.
Again, it shows you just how deep the wide receiver room is. I mean, neither one of us mentioned David Boston. That guy was crazy. He's a first round pick.
Joey Galloway.
Mentioned Joe Galloway before.
That's a good one, Rod. That's a good one.
Yeah. Santonio Holmes was good. Yeah. I mean, again, all of these guys were first round picks. Ridiculous amount of talent for the Buckeyes. But that'll do it for us tonight. We will see you on Thursday for the Collins show. Looks like we're doing it at 7:00 now, so we'll be about an hour earlier than what we have been doing. So we will see you then. Bring your comments, concerns. If you want to yell about Larry, you can yell about Larry to us, and we'll talk to you guys then. OH.
Ayo.